Thank you, Ms. Rina, and thank you everyone from the ARTHALAND team. Thank you for just hosting this webinar and allowing us to talk about the importance of sustainable living and growing your own food. So for today's talk, let me just give an outline for what to expect. We have under an hour, and so I want to give a little background on who we are as a farm and what we practice and why it's important. We will go over 3 reasons why it is important to grow our own food. I'm sure we're here for all different reasons, but I'd like to tackle 3 important reasons that is very relevant to our time now. And then lastly, we'll get into the fun part of how to grow your own food. So for this PowerPoint to work, I created, the information is based on people that haven't started whatsoever. So this is the basic principles, the bare essentials, and the least effort needed to grow things. Because I want you guys to see how easy it is, and we can easily start as soon as after this webinar. So let us begin. So a little background about Kahariam Farms. We are an organic farm located in Lipa, Batangas. And what Ms. Rina said, we are considered, we are known as the largest earthworm farm in the Philippines. But our farm didn't start that way. Our farm has been in production for about 20 years now, but it really was just a passion project of my parents to have clean food. So what is clean food? Clean food is just food that is grown naturally, that it is in its natural state, not grown with any chemical fertilizers, not injected with growth hormones, no use of chemical pesticides, chemical herbicides. So this is how it started. We just wanted clean food. But we saw that when you grow your own food, we'll learn the basics of growing. You need sunlight, soil, and seeds. So with soil, we saw that soil needs to be fertilized, and the best way to get the best form of organic fertilizer is through earthworms. So here you can see some of the ecological practices that we use that are solving ecological problems within our country. So we have a huge waste problem. So our agri-waste, if you can see on the graphic to the left, our agri-waste, we feed them to the earthworms. The earthworms then in turn secretes or disposes of it through their poop or manure, which is called castings. That's where the word vermicast comes from. Vermi meaning worm, and castings is their poop or manure. So their vermicast is high in nutrients. Your soil needs nutrients to feed the plants to grow. And in turn, we were able to grow organic food that again feeds us. So it is this closed loop of sustainability with being able to sustain ourselves within the farm without external resources. Our new project, the black soldier flies, is the same thing. But with the black soldier flies, how the technology works is they eat food waste, and the larva, before it turns into a fly, is high in protein, and we can use this as animal feeds. So instead, imagine, instead of using so much land to grow animal feeds, we can use this land for human consumption, for human use, and use the larva to feed these animals. In turn, the animals feed us. So it's a win-win situation for everyone, the animals, the plants, the people, and the environment. And so our hope is by people practicing urban farming, they too are doing their part. So here are some reasons to grow your own food. One is your health. Organic food is safer because there are no chemicals. It tastes better. and it is actually higher in nutrients, nutrient dense. When my father was doing research and learning how to farm, learning techniques from other farmers, and to see, maybe non-organic isn't as bad. But it was disheartening what he saw. He saw a lot of farmers use kerosene to make the tomato shine. He saw a lot of people using formalin, which is like an embalming fluid to preserve these vegetables. And so when you grow your own food, you absolutely know where it's coming from, how it was grown, and it's safe for your family. Another reason to grow your own food is for the environment. 50% of the food, 50% of the waste that we consume is biodegradable. That means it is organic material that can be turned into compost or fed to the black soldier flies to feed the animals. We don't have to burn them. A lot of people still burn a lot of agri-waste, causing air pollution. A lot of waste management companies dump them in landfills, and these are causing methane gas that is a contributor to global warming. So imagine if all of us segregated our waste and used our biodegradable waste for compost, then it would really help our country's waste management problem. Third reason, and I'm probably guessing is the reason why most of you guys are here, is for food security. With this pandemic, food accessibility is a problem. Majority of our food is imported from our neighboring countries. So when a pandemic strikes, or let's say these countries have national disasters, they will cut us off from that supply, of course, and they will focus first on feeding themselves. And so we need to learn to rely on our country. We need to support local farmers and also help them. Like, we grow what we can, and then we support local farmers and buy from what we can't grow. So now to the fun part, how to grow your own food. So this is 5 parts. I'm trying to make it as easy as possible to encourage you that it is easy. So one, since this is an urban setting, I took the liberty to just show first an apartment as opposed to a house. Because being in the city, probably majority of us live in apartments. So the number one thing you need to think about first when you're growing your own food is, where is my light coming from? What direction is the sun from the window? Where are my light sources coming from? So after this, I challenge you guys to download a compass in your phone if you don't have one. Stand by your window and see where your light source is coming from. So the north, if it's facing north, you have the weakest sun. That doesn't necessarily mean you can't grow anything, but it means that now you have more of a calculated plan on what you can grow. South is the strongest, which is probably the nicest direction, because you'll get the sun from morning to late afternoon. East is also good because you get the morning sun, which isn't harsh. And west is where my apartment, the direction of my sun is in my apartment. I get the hottest sun, which isn't so bad, but that just tells me that for my plants that are a little bit more sensitive to light, I don't put them near the window. That's all that it is. So know where your sun source is coming from. 2, you need seeds. The Bureau of Plant Industry is giving away free seeds and seedlings. So they started doing this since the ECQ started. So their number is here. They also have a Facebook page. I highly encourage you guys to call them up and see if there are still seedlings and seeds, because the seeds that they use are all natural, open pollinated seeds. So this is not GMO or hybrid seeds. You can also call the Department of Agriculture's regional offices near you. There's Lazada, Shopee, but watch out for the reviews because I bought seeds in Shopee once and it was actually sand. So that was like kind of sad, but it was okay because it wasn't so expensive. And then you can also get it in supermarkets and in True Value. I also encourage you to please save the seeds that you get from the vegetables that you buy. And who knows, you could even form a community where you guys swap seeds. So there is your seeds. The third that you would need to grow is your soil. So the type of soil that you want is a loamy type of soil, one that is airy and retains moisture well. You don't want it to be sandy soil where water just goes straight down. You don't want it to be clay-like soil that the roots will have a hard time growing. So in order for the plants to get the nutrients that it needs, that's where composting comes in, or applying vermic acid. So the three major nutrients that a plant needs is, you'll hear it and you'll see it in gardening stores when you're looking at the compost, NPK, which means nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. So in the stages of plant life, these are some of the largest amount of minerals, nutrients that it needs. And you can get it from your compost or vermic acid. So nitrogen helps aiding in plant growth. So if a lot of you guys have home indoor plants, nitrogen is good to put because it makes the plants greener. Then phosphorus is in that vegetative seedling stage of nutritional development and allowing the roots to be strong. And then we have potassium, which helps just strengthen it from any like diseases, pests. Also, it makes the, activates enzymes. Then, okay, so here we are with how to start growing food. You can actually grow food by regrowing food scraps that you have. So if you look at the photo here, a lot of the vegetables that you see are edible stems, leafy vegetables with that comes in heads, so like your romaine or your celery, and then vegetables that grow from the ground. So what you can do here is you just cut the base part of the vegetable and put some water and allow it to root for maybe 1 to 2 weeks. Once there are roots formed, you can sow it directly in soil. So let's say today you guys look in the kitchen and you see that you have some of these things in the photo, but you don't have soil. Well, some of them can actually be grown and eaten without the soil. So you can do this for romaine lettuce. So you want to cut like 2 inches off the base of the romaine lettuce. Same with the carrot tops. You want to cut the tops, the green part, and then from the bottom, you want to cut maybe 1 inch. And same thing with the green onions. So you just put the base on shallow water and the lettuce will start to grow, and you can eat this within 2 weeks without the soil. If you want it to mature and grow larger, then you'd have to put it in soil. For the carrot tops, 1 to 3 weeks, you'll already get the green leaves of the carrots, and you can eat this. You can actually use it as pesto instead of basil. And green onions, which I love, you just, cut again the base part, put it in water, and allow it to grow. And within 3 weeks, you can start chopping off the top and adding it to your dishes. When you practice this way, you want to change your water every 3 to 5 days to make sure that it doesn't rot, or that like bacteria won't rot it. I recommend, this is something that you can try because I'm sure all of us have this in our kitchen, is garlic, onion, and ginger. Garlic takes 9 months onions takes 3 to 5, and ginger 8 to 12 months. Again, you can grow it first in water so that it roots. And then once it roots, you want to transfer it into soil in not too deep, but maybe like half an inch under or an inch under. So for garlic, interesting. One clove of garlic can actually, when you grow this, you can harvest one whole bulb. Isn't that amazing? And the larger the clove is, the larger the bulb will be. So you want to get the larger ones as opposed to the smaller ones. For onions, it depends on the sprout of the onion, but you could get maybe 2 to 5 onion heads from a single onion. And then for ginger, this takes the longest. And the leaves can get very high, like about maybe 2 feet, 2-3 feet. So depending on the space that you're in a condo, or if you have a balcony or maybe a small garden, this is something to consider if you have the space for it. So next would be your cuttings. So I highly recommend that you buy first herbs. Buy herb plants. They are they add so much to your dishes. And also when you buy herb packets, let's say basil, there's so many basils that I've thrown away because I end up not using all of it. And so you can, I suggest for beginners to buy a basil, to buy an herb plant, and then get to know the anatomy of the plant, care for it, and then you can regrow it by cutting. So let me just stop the share screen. So I'll show you guys. So I'm like a lot bigger in the. Okay, am I like in the main? So you want to cut your stem, and then you want to take out the leaves in the bottom part because you want all the water to focus on growing roots. Okay, and so and then you want to cut the bottom part at like a 45-degree angle so there's more surface for the water to enter. So you can use the leaves that you just took out for your dishes, and at the same time, you are growing it through cuttings. So you can do this for many other herbs, like here I have my tarragon. And so, and then I'll go over other herbs that you can do this with. So let me go ahead and share my screen again. So again, you want to change the water every 2 to 3 days. And once you see roots growing, maybe in 2 weeks' time, you can then grow it in in soil. Okay. So the same technique can work for some plants. Like, so this was a plant that was dying in the office because it wasn't watered. And you can cut the nodes. So where the leaves grow, if you look at the photo in the middle, there are nodes. So these are where roots can grow. So if you cut it and again put it in water, it will form roots. So look at the photo on the right. That's from the photo on the left, and that was just maybe like a week's time. So I was able to save some of the leaves from this plant by just doing that. So as you can see, my other pothos plant, the roots, so when the roots are a bit that long na, you can already transplant it into soil. So other herbs that you can grow through cuttings are basil, tarragon, rosemary. Rosemary is a little bit hard. There's also, and then, so if you can tell, any herbs that kind of have the same structure. I'm actually experimenting on green tea. So it kind of has the same structure where the leaves are growing and you can cut from right under where the leaves are. And that's where the roots will grow from where the leaves are cut. I love garlic onion. So as you can see, this is a whole different type of structure. So you cannot get cuttings from this. What you would do is so if you can see, I have like about maybe 5 pieces of this. So as it grows bigger, I just uproot one and plant it, and it'll grow an entire new bunch. So the way to grow food that is probably has the most effort is growing it from seed, but it is also the most rewarding. So if you have seeds, you don't have to do this, but I tend to soak them in water overnight just to start the germination. And then so I soaked it overnight, and then for some seeds that are small, sometimes I pre-germinate them. So that is just by putting seeds in on tissue paper and then allowing it to be moist and putting it in plastic for it to sprout. So I don't know if you guys will be able to see this, but some of it is like starting to sprout already. I'm gonna probably give this a couple more days before I put it in a seedling container. But you can do this for smaller seeds. Sometimes sometimes you get not all the seeds that you sow will sprout. And so since I sometimes I go back and forth from the farm and my apartment, I kind of want to see what sprouts and then grow from there. But you can definitely go straight and putting it in a seedling container. So instead of putting it in a large pot, again, because we're trying to save space and not all of them are gonna grow. So you wanna contain it and put it first in seedling containers. So you could use anything from plastic cups to eggshells. Just make sure that there are holes in the bottom so that the water can drain out. Because if you don't, then you can rot the roots with the water. So how do you know when it's time to transplant your seedling into a large container? So the usual practice is once the seedling sprouts 2 leaves, then it's ready for transplant. Depending on what you're trying to grow will depend on the container that you use. So if you're trying to maybe, let's say, grow kamote, which grows from the ground, you will need a larger container as opposed to growing lettuce where it's above naman, so smaller one. I would recommend when you buy your pots, of course, plastic will be lighter and cheaper, and you will be using it a lot anyway, so it won't go to waste. But I try not to use plastic, and actually terracotta pots are better because number one reason of a plant dying is it being overwatered. So when you use a terracotta container, the water is actually being absorbed by the sides of your pot. And so that could decrease the amount of you overwatering it. So a lot better than buying plastic. But again, if that's what you have at home, then it's not a make or break for planting. So what can you start growing? What is the easiest to grow? What is the fastest to grow? What is best in our type of climate or tropical climate here in the Philippines? So my suggestions would be pechay, mustard, and kangkong. All these three, you will be able to harvest it within a month. And they're fairly easy. The pechay, you actually don't have to harvest the entire head. You can just cut from the bottom as needed and it will continue growing. Because sometimes you might just want to cook for yourself, so maybe you just need 3 to 5. And so it's great because if you pluck the head, then that means that there is no source of nutrients anymore. So it's basically slowly dying already. Same thing with kangkong, you can just cut the tops. You could even use liters of Coke as containers. Just to recycle the plastic. These are easy. I will talk a little bit later on how to avoid common pests that may be around your garden. So, sorry, that's supposed to be fruiting vegetables. So if you if you have this space and let's say you have good lighting, you may want to try for your next plan of plants is fruiting vegetables. So the top 3 that are fairly easy is okra, chili peppers, and tomatoes. So this will be harvested at double the amount of the leafy vegetables because of course now there is a fruiting vegetable, so it's going to need more energy to grow these vegetables. Another common thing, and I just wanted to show you because I do have the seeds for it. It's great to grow your own lettuce, and the lettuce seeds are extremely small. So I'm going to try to put my thumb right there. So I'm going to demo how you can sow your lettuce seeds. So I'm just going to take a bunch in my hand. Usually when the seeds are to create an indentation in the soil, and then that's where you put the seeds. But for these lettuce seeds that are so small, you can actually just sprinkle them on top. Make sure that the Tupperware that you're using has holes, drainage. And then you want to just sprinkle another layer of soil. And then just water it. I would invest in a watering can, those with the narrow tubes, because then you get more control of how to plant your indoor plants. So I'm just gonna leave this by my window, and when it starts to when it starts sprouting, I am going to pick at the seedlings that I just think maybe might be the greenest, look the healthiest, and then transplant them to my lettuce container. So another example I just wanted to show you, I tried to see if an avocado seed, an avocado pit would grow if I just submerged it in water, and it did. So the picture on the left is an avocado pit that I think it started sprouting about 2 months. And when the roots of the avocado pit were bunched up in my glass container, that's when I transplanted it. So I brought it to our farm, and there it is in the photo on the middle. And we actually have avocado trees. I just wanted to show you guys, if you had never seen an avocado tree, that's the photo on the right. It can get that big. But as I was doing research, I found out that an avocado tree grown from a pit can take over 10 to 15 years before it fruits. But if you get a cutting from a tree, then you can probably, it can probably bear fruit in half that time, which, yeah, it was kind of sad. But I mean, it's all fun experiencing and getting to know these plants. But yeah, if you don't have that time, then maybe you can try getting a cutting and growing it directly in the soil. When you do this, when you get a branch and you sow it into soil, there are natural rooting hormones that you can dip the branch in before you sow it to stimulate growth. So here are some natural ones that you guys can try out. Cinnamon, even your saliva, aloe vera gel. If you have apple cider vinegar, you want to dilute 5 drops in half a cup of water and use that. It is kind of sayang for like just to dip a couple of branches, but hey, if you have it, why not? And then there's also honey, which is you get just half a teaspoon and mix that in half a cup of water. And by doing this, it will help speed up your root growth. So let's go to plant care. So as you sowed the seed, you have transplanted the seedling, and now it's going through the various stages. It's a vegetative state, its flowering state, and then eventually its fruiting stage. There are different ways to take care of it. A lot of people ask, how much water do I put? The rule of thumb is you just want to make sure that the soil is not dry. So if it's been 2-3 days and you look at the soil and it still looks moist, there's no need to water it. So there really is no one formula on watering. But when you do water, you can use rice water. It has small amounts of NPK and is great for the leafy greens that I recommended you guys start with. If you have Epsom salt, this is great too because it has magnesium, and magnesium will help the absorption of nitrogen and potassium. It's kind of like how black pepper works when you drink turmeric. You absorb more turmeric when you ingest black pepper than just ingesting turmeric alone. So it kind of has parang that same process. So this is great if you want to try with the fruiting plants that I recommended, the peppers, okra, tomatoes. So you would just sprinkle maybe a tablespoon on the topsoil of your plant, and maybe do this once or twice a month. Another great thing that you can use from your food scraps that has a lot of good nutrients is eggshells and banana peel. Eggshells have calcium and potassium, so you can actually just crush it, maybe even powderize it if you want. And again, just mix it on the top layer of your soil, and as you water, it'll seep down and mix, all the minerals will mix with the soil. Banana peels are great as well. They have NPK and they have magnesium. So you can actually, I mean, you can put the entire banana peel on the surface, but I would recommend just chopping it up so that it just decomposes faster. And you could also, since it's high in NPK, you could actually also dilute it in water and use it as a spray for the leaves. So some of your plants will attract pests. And since we are practicing organic farming, we're not using chemical fertilizers. We're going to use compost and other vermicompost. For pest control, we want to use all natural ways. So no pesticides, no herbicides, no fungicides. So, oh, I just realized I didn't remove the text copy. Anyway, sorry guys. So this is a recipe that you can try at home if you do notice that there are pests eating at the leaves of your plants. So it's just combining chili pepper and garlic, which you can grow because they're fairly easy, as I explained earlier. And you would just cut up a tablespoon of each, dilute it in a liter of water, allow it to soak for a day, and then strain it out, and then use it as needed. It could be like every week, but you can use it as needed to ward off those pests. Another great thing is pests are repelled by the smell of herbs. So if you already have your herbs, you can place them in between your vegetables, and hopefully this will ward off pests as well. Flowers, we grow marigolds in our farm. It's that yellow-orange flower. And they're sometimes called a sacrificial plant. Pests are also repelled by their color. And so this acts as a natural repellent to pests. So it's amazing. Nature really gives you everything that you need from controlling your pests. The problem with pesticides is when commercial farmers use pesticide, they will kill all pests, good or bad. And the thing is, there are harmful insects that will eat your plants, but there are also beneficial insects that will eat those harmful insects. Everything in nature is balanced if we just learn how to use it and pay attention and observe, like it's all there. It's so amazing. When we started really growing our garden and our farm, and we were growing all organic, we saw all these different birds come into our land and just rest there. They can sense that there's no harm for them being around that place. So when you guys are in the supermarkets or in your local farmer markets, when you buy your vegetables, and you see worms or bugs, that is a good thing. That means that there are no chemicals or chemical pesticides there. The insects eats it because it's safe. So surely it's safe for you. Dapat matakot tayo if there are no bugs or insects that eat those vegetables. Like, I think I had an apple that I bought from a grocery, and it was still shiny and looked fresh after like a month, which is kind of scary. So other ways to make sure that you are taking care of your plants is, yes, look at your soil, make sure that it's not dry, and then your leaves will tell you what the problem could be. Now, the image on the left, it's kind of technical because it breaks down specifically what nutrients each plant, what the nutrients the plant needs. But I honestly don't follow this. I am able to solve the problems of my plants based on really just observing them and trying the things that are on the right. So just making sure that the soil is moist. Is my plant getting too much sun or too little sun? My tarragon doesn't do well with the sun in my apartment, the harsh sun in my apartment. All my other herbs are fine with it, but for whatever reason, the tarragon gets so wilted. So I place it, a couple feet away from my window. Another thing is to consider the nutrient deficiency. So there are some fertilizers that there are numbers. I don't know if they do it for organic fertilizer. I think they do, because we write down how much NPK our vermicast has. So based on the deficiency, you can even Google, like, okay, if I need more, you know, maybe if nitrogen makes my plants green and it's kind of all watery, fadey, it could be I'm overwatering it, or it could be it lacks nitrogen. So it's a matter of, okay, what food scraps or what food is high in nitrogen that I could actually use as a compost. If you're also doing indoor farming, indoor gardening, it could also be just like your air conditioning or drafts from, maybe if you have a balcony and it's like by the aircon, that's not good for the plants. So by just really observing it, guys, I love having plants because it makes me feel good to have green around me. I love that I'm able to grow things that I can eventually eat. And at the same time, it kind of like teaches you to be more intuitive and like really not react and have a formula for everything, but really listen to what the plant is saying, which I feel like it's a skill that we are losing because of just how fast-paced this world is, and with its systems and formulas. So, you know, as long as we know the basic principles, sun, you get the right seed, you have good soil, and you're making sure that it has enough nutrients, I think, you know, you're good to go. So I just wanted to share our planting by season here in our farm, but a lot of this is also to utilize the space that we have. But if you can see, we don't grow in the months of March and April because that is the hottest. So you also might want to consider not growing during those months, just because of the heat. And then if you wanted to grow tree cuttings, I have this huge fascination for native trees. And so when I walk around my village, I kind of pick up seeds, and I have a bunch, but I haven't planted any of them yet in my seedling tray. But if you do want to do this, you want to plant your cuttings in the bare months where you get the most rain and the most moisture in the ground. So I'm almost done with my presentation, but I just wanted to remind you guys of the 3 S's: sun, seed, and soil. And then again, you can start literally by checking what you have, or maybe now that you see this, your grocery list will change. Maybe you incorporate these items so that you can try to regrow them, try to save some of the seeds. But I do highly recommend buying an herb plant, or maybe even getting cuttings from friends if you have friends who have their own herb plants. And then leafy greens are the easiest and fastest. You could also, aside from the fruiting vegetables, you might also want to try root crops. And so yeah, that is it for my presentation. I hope it got you guys excited. I hope you guys learned something from it, and that you would try some of these tips and techniques to grow your own food at home.